to set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
Boy, we got something absolutely fantastic today. What do we do here at the Film Buff Podcast on Fridays? Well, we like to focus on independent ventures, independent ideas, independent executions. And in this case, 2024 Space Command Redemption. That is, I believe, Mark Scott Zickery. This is our co-writer, co-director. It's also co-written and co-directed by what I only assume to be his wife, Miss Zickery. Elaine Zickery, Mr. Mark Scott Zickery. I just love, these are sci-fi last names. These are sci-fi names in general. And we have a sci-fi epic. As far as I can tell, just based on some of his social media, it looks like Mark is gearing up to do a continuation of this. I think he's this is a back. Oh my god, I hate Hollywood talk. I hate it so much. The Hollywooders will call this a backdoor pilot. What that means is that it's a feature with a beginning, middle, and an end, but it sets up another adventure or a larger series. It's a backdoor pilot. I hate that term, but it does kind of apply here, so I'll go with it. What is Space Command Zero? If we want to sit down and say it's inspired by Star Trek, yes, but here's the thing. Star Trek wasn't the first crew that had a center chair, that had wacky alien characters. It wasn't the first. The Enterprise wasn't the first starship. The Klingons weren't the first space bad guys. Space adventure goes all the way back. It goes all the way back to the days of Buck Rogers. I've been knee deep, and focus on deep learning in 2026. Deep learning, by the way, is when you have a pile of books and you write everything down. Some people call it notebooking. But you essentially redraft a lot of what you're reading and you organize it in a way so you can reference your own reading, you can reference your own ideas. Deep learning. So I've spent a good chunk of 2026 just going through the early days of comic book history. And the one property that really is prevalent, that a lot of people talk about, that a lot of people pinpoint, is Buck Rogers. I grew up with Buck Rogers. I grew up with that 80s TV series, the 80s Flash Gordon movie. I was Buck. I was Flash. But then slowly but surely, the Star Trek generation, the Star Wars generation, the Trek E and or Trek generation all emerged around me. Science fiction shifted. Science fiction went from high fantasy, which would be Star Wars, to true science fiction, which would be Star Trek. And the differentiation, boy, I butchered that one, of the two is, and Space Command falls into high science fiction. The concepts spoken of by the characters, we can look it up. We can research a little bit of what they're saying and see what the theories are and what the properties of some of this stuff are today. And then we get to see it imagined into a future. It's a fantastic difference of the two. A lot of the people will nowadays just classify Star Wars as science fiction, and it's to me it's more sci-fi fantasy, it's more sci-fi adventure. Space Command gave me a really big callback and somewhat of a definition for me to why this works. I'll say it. I love watching this. I want more of it. I love the concepts. I love the ship design. Sure, do we have moments? Do we have a couple moments that take us out because we're too green screen, or maybe the launching of the flagship is I know what we're going for, but it's not quite there. We need $10 more million. Those sort of reactions. But when we get into products like this, when we get into content like this, when we get into art like this, aka Patters, we have to be sophisticated, we have to be smart, and we have to be good audience members. There's no green screen here that I can't imagine as more vast, as more rich, as more lush. This production is designed all the way through. Every single by the way, AK Patters, I love the crew's uniform. They're black. There's a little bit of Bob Ringwood in them. If you guys don't know Bob Ringwood, he's the one that gave us the Dune still suits in the 1984 Lynch movie. He's famously the Excalibur armor and the Michael Keaton batsuit. There's a lot of Bob Ringwood in this design. We have like cyborgs. We have a couple layers of humans. Like we have the command. It's a little bit like Star Trek, where there's almost like a secret walking class system. See, in Star Trek, the crew members, the people who fly the ships, they're a level above everyone else in society. It's never, I don't think it's ever quite explicit. I don't even think the J.J. Abrams breach it, but there's a clear pyramid system within this type of science fiction, which is the space explorers are the military. But it doesn't feel dystopian. It doesn't feel like socialist or any of these other terms that people just throw around today. It feels organized and structured and also accepted within that universe. Space Command Redemption is attempting to give us the Star Trek that a lot of people are here for. A lot of people are waiting for the return of Star Trek. And every single new series, every single new concept, I give Paramount a lot of credit. It just seems like they're trying, and like none of this stuff seems to land. Same as Disney with Star Trek. With Star Wars, where it's just like, oh my God, like if you really look at everything on paper and you look at what they've attempted and the concepts around it, you would say to yourself, well, some of this stuff's going to be huge, and then to go back and find out that none of it at all has staying power. That's a little bit of where we are with those two franchise guys. I'm babbling. So let me just get into this callback and maybe like put a stamp on why it's like what happens when I do feel like it's a male thing. What happens when men watch this style of science fiction? A couple girlfriends ago, and I'm going way back. One of my girlfriend's fathers at one time mentioned that he fell asleep watching Stargate SG-1. I never got into Stargate other than the initial movie. I love the initial movie. I believe there's Stargate Atlantis, right? They're all helmed by the MacGyver guy. The MacGyver guy has made more Stargate than he has MacGyver, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, one night he mentions that he one day he mentions that he crashed out, and I said, yeah, at the time too, I was working at the comic shop, all of this stuff. And I said, yeah, a lot of people in the comic shop, they come in and there's this like one comic, I believe it was published by Avatar, and they, we put it to the side for them because we only ordered like 5, 6, 10, like barely double digits. And he's like, oh yeah. He goes, I love Stargate. He goes, I've seen every episode. And I'm like, Stargate? And that's when I realized that this guy, a lot like my father that loved Star Trek, just watched the show. They loved the show. My father didn't care about the comics, didn't care about the novels, liked the movies, all of the, just for example, for my father, Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek, and even the J.J. Abrams movies, they were just Star Trek to him. Like he didn't get upset about the Kelvin timeline or anything. To him, it was Star Trek, and it was good or it wasn't. Grown men being able to absorb somewhat of a procedural story with high concepts thrown in, with dynamic characters that just will say to their core will oppose each other. So we kind of have this infighting environment. We have this environment where if we don't get along or solve problems, we're going to die. I think there's something inherent about that men are drawn to, that they can just absorb time and time again. I argue that this watching method, if you want to call it, of my father and my girlfriend's father, SG1, Star Trek, they could just watch it. This audience gravitated to the WB Arrowverse, and it made Smallville run for 11 seasons. It made Arrow 8, maybe 10 seasons, The Flash 10, 11. I mean, it's 30 seasons worth of shows that very much, yeah, they pull in a little bit more of the human drama. They're grounded on Earth, but the formula, it isn't just Monster of the Week. There's a mechanism in there where they're fighting to solve problems, and they're doing it through conversation. And sure, like, do they have to turn the knob here and there? Sure. But at the same time, it's the pressure to solve the situation. I was happy when I went into Mark Scott Zickery, MSZ. When I went into a little bit of his IMDb, and I saw that he's got a long, illustrious history of working on sci-fi TV. To me, this works perfectly. I think what he's trying to do is perfect to what his wheelhouse is. Here's the wild thing, AK Patters. I think with, I don't know, like Amazon, Netflix, someone come in, snatch this up, give this guy some money, let him be the showrunner, let him run 12 episodes of this. I think it would be a science fiction epic unlike any other. There's a note I want to drop real quick of the spaceship design. The fleet design is just effing awesome. It does call back to Flash Gordon. It does call back to Buck Rogers. Dare I say, it's a little bit visionary. There's moments where we're in front of the Fantastic in this low budget movie. It's a movie that largely green screen. It's a movie that maybe could have used more time designing the captain's chair and what the I don't know, the upper deck, the final deck, the captain's deck, the control deck. There you go. To what it should look like. Is every little thing designed perfectly? Is every single performance nailed? No, but it's convincing. And that's a little bit of, I mean, I have to, I think it's Brian McClure. This is our captain. I think this is our captain. Some of these, and keep in mind, AK Patters, this whole movie is just littered with faces and names from, like, the, Bill, I think his name, Bill Bixby from Tron is the Space Command commander. We have individuals from Babylon 5, I'm pretty sure, Deep Space Nine. Side note, I gotta do an episode of what it was like to watch Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine within the same week. Getting new episodes of the two of them within the same week. It's one of the greatest science fiction experiences one could ever imagine. A lot of people used to watch the reruns of Raw and NWO Nitro, like, congruently to see how they were competing. You can do something very similar with Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine. But we have other character actors from both of those franchises in this. There's a little bit of legitimacy, but it's not just that. It's people that know the material, that can speak on the material, that they kind of know. I mean, I will always go back to some of the auditions of Star Wars, where, like, no one knew how to pronounce anything. So there is something to you hire the people you know that know the material. Shakespeare actors are Shakespeare actors for life for a reason. But AKAPADers, bravo to everyone involved with this. Really good performances too. Space Command Redemption 2024 deserves your time, your attention, and it deserves a ton of credit for doing it. And I think this is, if you want to call this a pilot, I would watch a series of this, no problem, because I think the characters are there. I love you guys. Rock and roll.
Okay, that's a wrap.